Welcome, everyone, and welcome, Anastasia. We have with us Anastasia Frank, who is a business coach for female entrepreneurs. In fact, she's my coach. And and Anastasia, share with people about your business coaching, why women entrepreneurs, and
Mhm.
what's special about your approach.
Yeah. Um, I feel if it's okay, Alice, like because I was thinking about your title and the tagline, and I really want to like serve the people that are
Mhm.
here. I feel like that would maybe be most supportive. And if I don't answer it directly, you can come back. But so this whole question of, um, because it is connected, like how do we step into our purpose powerfully and then not let things like fear and anxiety, etc., stop us. So um, that question is so near and dear to my heart, and it literally is why I have pivoted yet again in my own life to focus on helping heart-centered female, mostly coaches, build out their businesses. It has everything to do with this very question, right? So and I was like, what are the questions that got me here that, get people where they're going? And it really has to do with like, you know, what is the problem that you most want to solve right now? And like your audience getting intimate with their honest answer to that question of what is the problem that I most feel called to solve. I believe that, and there's other things we can ask to flesh that out, but that continual inquiry will take you where you are meant to be. And
Mhm.
so, my strong intention and desire here is like to say to the people watching, whatever that is, and the weirder the better,
Mm.
you can trust that when you take the time to really answer what is that thing that's calling me forward that I feel like I'm going to raise my hand and fight for, you will be met, you will be safe, you will be abundant in all of the ways that matter to you. And I know that because I've walked through like five different doors in my own journey to be in this place. And I've watched everyone I support get there too. And it just takes a little faith and a little trust and a little chutzpah to get there. So that's just the first thing I wanted to put in the field for everyone.
Yeah. And in, I know most recently you were a love coach and and a self-love coach and now you're a business coach. And
Yeah.
what is it about empowering women
Mhm.
that matters to you? Like, because it seems to be a theme, right?
That's very true. It's so funny. It's like, when you're so in it that you don't even like think about that being a thing. Yeah. So, and this again ties into the question of your show of like, how do we step into purpose, right? So, another way to get there is to look at what are the things that you have struggled with most deeply and have in some way, either hugely or in a smaller way, like created a success, even if that just means you made it through like a gnarly divorce or something like that. So that that kind of answers your question for me because um in a nutshell, I was a very driven, hardworking woman, like all the women I support, and ended up getting into Princeton on a full scholarship because I was raised so poor with a single mom that the year I applied for colleges, my mom was making 12,000 a year and Princeton cost 40K. But I knew at the time it was the only need blind school that existed. So if I could just get in, they wouldn't have a choice but to take me. And so I fought for that like my life depended on it. And so, point being, I got in there and I was actually just thinking as I was meditating before this call, I was just remembering how lost I was because I was just trying to be good. I was fighting so hard to be good that I had no idea who I was. So,
Mm.
yes, I got into Princeton, which is insane already and, fully paid for. But it was like at the expense of me because I had grown up in a very abusive home with physical violence, emotional, all kinds of violence from my father. And I had learned to just abandon myself and my body in order to achieve results. So by the time I got into Princeton, I was like kind of lost because I was like, yay, I did it, but I feel like shit. And who am I? And why does any of this matter? And so that kind of led me on this 15-year journey of discovering like, who am I? What do I feel? You know, what do I care about versus what society is asking me to care about? You know, like junior year, everyone's applying to finance jobs. I got a finance job because all it's what all the other people were doing. And it's also ridiculous looking back. And yet it's perfect. But so the answer for me was, as I embarked on that journey and I learned to care and to know, what do I feel? What do I need? How can I be with myself with that love and tenderness that I never got from anyone around? As I mastered that and I had this like whole shift where my life started working for the first time in ways that mattered. Like I left finance, I actually went to film school and I, did all this beautiful work that was the best thing I had done up until that point. Um, I felt like I had an obligation, having gone from this disconnection, not knowing who I was, to serve other women who were like me, like highly driven, high achieving, brilliant, smart women who had been trained to not care who they were and to sacrifice their identity for the expectations of whoever was around. And so I did. So the whole 15 years after that, like that, and I can't do the math of that exactly, but
About, yeah.
it was spent serving women like me, thousands and thousands of women who, just like me, had achieved so much, but felt lost and numb and shut down, and helping them come back into their bodies, learn to love themselves, and in the process also call in a partner, because that had been another mystery to me. And so I've just always cared about the woman I was, like even in high school, that was just knew she was meant for something big, but just didn't know have anyone like caring about who she actually was. That felt imperative for me to raise my hand because I didn't see any relationship coaches talking about building this epic intimacy within
Mm.
before they sent people off to date. And I was like, I guess that's mine, you know. And so, and yet I've been watching my own body in the last 5 years. And the thing that keeps coming up for me, the thing that's making me angry these days, which is another question to ask, is like, why are there all of these women in their like 70s at grocery stores checking out my fruit and, my milk, not because they want to be there, which I'm all for, like, be retired and social, but because no one gave them the tools and the equipment to be financially free. And that makes me so fucking mad. So I feel in this time, and we're going to see as it all unfolds, I want to address, I am committed to addressing this problem of not enough women being truly financially free. And in my opinion, the best way to create financial freedom, which is different for all of us, but to me, it's like passive assets that you have caused into existence through delivering value to the planet, however you did it. That's for me, my definition. It could be different for you. But the
Mhm.
best way to do it is build a business, create massive value, run it well, invest intelligently, and then like let's all be work optional in 3 to 5 years. So we don't have to work, but we get to create massive more impact. That feels like where God is calling me.
Mhm.
So does that answer the question?
Yeah, yeah, it's yes, and not the way I thought it would. Like what I'm hearing is, I mean, you told me things I know about you, but I didn't know that they were the answer to my question. Yeah, so you care about empowering women because it's the transformation you went through and you're ready to pass it on. You're
Yes.
ready to pay it forward. Yeah.
Especially right now, especially what just happened in the election. I was thinking about this today on my walk along the shore, like how, you know, uh, I have created a life where I can take my son, my beautiful, gorgeous 17-month-old son, who I'm raising on my own right now, because I chose that. That is also part of my purpose and calling and desire. And we can leave the country like next month. I can move us to Costa Rica. I can move us to Spain. And that is amazing. And what's possible for me is possible for you, is possible for everyone watching. And that's not the solution to like leave, having spent so much money on Kamala and all of the things. I will continue to ask Spirit what is mine to do. And the ability to choose, like, where's going to be the best place for me to like impact the world now is so huge. And it's like, it's gotten more imperative with what's about to come. So it's like, why don't we all just get massively impactful, massively abundant, and be at choice for the exact nuances of how we get to fix this
Yes.
mess and opportunity that we are inside of. Yeah.
Yeah. That's, yeah, very compelling. And I just want to draw out a couple things you said about purpose, because they matter to everyone, whether they're, starting a business or whether they're, shutting down a nuclear power plant, right? It's like, what's the problem you most want to solve? What are you angry about? What are you called to? What do you feel in your body move to? What are you getting intuitive hits about? I know in your case that you get direct downloads from spiritual guidance. Like, there's all this information about what each of us is meant to do.
Mm-hmm.
And when we follow it, things happen.
They really do. They really do. And it's like, and I'll be honest, not everything that I followed was like my forever thing. And I also don't think necessarily it's supposed to be. And I want to like give that permission to people watching that, and this is partly why I love running a business, is like I get to sell the thing I care about. It's so great and it's awesome. And so do you. And so does everyone else watching, so that permission to change your mind and to just trust that desire, that burning need, even your rage, it has so much information in it, that you're right. And it's like, how do you harness that? I'm a big, big fan of like 10 minutes in the morning, creating space to acknowledge everything going on in you, especially the things that you're not supposed to be feeling. All of the rage, all of the anger, all of the resentment towards yourself, towards Trump, towards men. Like, let's give it all a voice, all the things that you despise, and then just notice what arises as you do, because we are all rendered potent by that awareness of what exactly do we feel? What exactly do we hate? Because it's like the second that's acknowledged, immediately, my inner child, I call her Asya, she just starts naming what she does want. She's like, these are all the things that we hate. And then I always have a notepad beside my main notepad of the hits of what is coming through that she does want. So take the time to know yourself, which looks like right on a page. It's like 104, day 1. Commit to it for like 41 days. This is adaptation of Melody Beattie's beautiful work. I highly recommend this process. And just write, feel, and you're looking for feelings that upset you. And that is literally your path. Just literally your path. And then if you want, what I also recommend is get a notebook and ask guidance or love if you're at the point in your life of, if you're an atheist, as I was until I was almost 30. Ask life, what would you have me do with all of that? So you've raged, you've described, you've said what you hate, what you loathe about you, about everything, as well as some things that are desires. Then write out, what would you have me do? And whatever you receive, go do that. That is how I ended up marrying my husband in the most bizarre way. we're no longer together, which also was meant to happen. But it's like everything beautiful. My son going fighting for his existence when doctors told me I couldn't have him all came through that question. What would you have me do now that I see who I am, what I hate, what I love? What would you have me do? And go do it. And it really can be that simple as the starting place.
Yeah. And and yeah, and you have lots of examples of miracles following from lining up, aligning yourself and your guidance and actually taking action. What?
That was Sasha. It's kind of blurry for Halloween as the hungry caterpillar because he eats a lot, as do I. He was never supposed to happen, but I kept feeling that there was a place in my heart that had this massive love to give, and I kept hearing his little voice. So you get to trust, especially where there is love, there is purpose, whether it's for a family member or for a partner or for a business where you feel a desire to share love, there is purpose, and you get to just connect. What would you have me do to birth this human business partnership into existence and just watch what happens? Yes.
Mm. Yeah. So inside of business coaching, and a lot of the people watching are not entrepreneurs, and a lot of people are, right? What excuse my cat, she was busy, okay. She's visiting.
That's okay.
And you built your business, and this is also how I found you, through this collaborative model of these shared interview series. What do you want to tell people watching who are thinking about growing something about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I am a huge fan of the summit model. So, like, for a number of reasons, and the main one being, there's so many reasons. Like, if you don't know what you want to do, go host a summit. Why? Because the act of creating it is going to force you to clarify a couple things. So, number one, what is the question that interests you, which ties hand in hand with the problem you want to solve? So I ran the Healthy Love Show for like almost 10 years. The Healthy Love Show, how to create healthy, lasting love without repeating the painful patterns of the past. You defining the question that the show will answer is going to give you clarity on what are you called to birth forward. And then as you parse out, like, who are some of the kinds of people that I think could answer this well? Like, for the Healthy Love Show, it always is a combination of self-love experts and actual relationship coaches, but then also sexuality coaches and, these emotional processing techniques, from tapping to breath work to you name it. So it does so much. So first of all, you clarify the question that you're compelled to answer, which is really what your business is solving. And then you go educate yourself through these interviews. You connect with these brilliant people and you learn as you're interviewing them. And then you build an audience of, typically every summit I've ever hosted has had at least 2,000 people join. And, I just finished supporting a client in her very first summit, and she had 1,000 people. She's never run a business. And my whole team, I was like, how common is that? They're like, that's unusual for someone off the street, which is partly why I feel so drawn to supporting people with this, because there's just certain things you can do to like make this whole event so good for the audience and for the speakers and then for you. And it's so low risk because it's like you're just, putting together this show, and then it's versus like paid advertising, which can work and it also can't. And especially if you don't know what you're doing, there's a lot of unknown there. So I just love that it's almost like you can't mess it up. Like, the worst that could happen is you don't get the biggest build that you want. or that you don't enroll powerfully, but those are solvable problems. And it's just like, it's the gift that keeps on giving. Like, some of my best friends are like New York Times bestselling authors that I've interviewed. They're literally in my phone that we text each other because they know in my commitment to running summits with excellence that I'm a powerful leader for them. And so I make thousands of dollars just promoting their stuff to my list and vice versa. So it's just this like love fest.
Yeah, it's very relational, right?
Very relational.
And and yes, and you get to meet your heroes and
Mm-hmm.
contribute to them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then you know them.
Then you know them. Oh my gosh. I have on my mantle over there, Ken Page, when my son was born, he sent like a little bunny rabbit with his full name, like engraved on the ears, and I didn't even know it was coming. It's just like, it's just awesome. And like also on a business level, before that had happened, I had gotten myself to six figures basically by accident. Like I had
Mhm.
made 100,000 because people would meet me on the street and they'd be like, "What do you do?" I'm like, "I'm a relationship coach." And they're like, "I need to hire you." So it always just felt so random. like, like where are the leads coming from? It never made any sense. The second that I did my first summit, I had 2,000 people suddenly on my list from nothing. And then I opened up my calendar. I was like, who wants to have a conversation about healthy love? And I was booked for 8 hours a day for 3 months versus having like no idea where anyone would come from. And so on the end of it, I filled a whole group program and I ended up scaling my time down because I had to. In an hour and a half, I was like making what I did in like 15 hours. And like, so that first summit created like $350,000 and it just goes from there. So the ability to just make massive impact with little risk and then relational things, mwah, it's the best.
Amazing. And let's see. Yeah. So, you talked about financial freedom and why it matters, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
not just about being wealthy, it's also freedom, actual freedom.
Yes. Yes.
Um, and what are some of the ways that people might be blocking themselves either from financial freedom or other kinds of success? Because we're all here with big goals.
Right. Right. That's such a great question. I was actually like, as I was walking, I was listening to a conversation by one of the people who I love, and she echoed something that's just been in my heart again, which is like, when we have a big goal, our capacity and likelihood of hitting it is directly proportionate to our capability to feel responsibly big feelings. Because essentially, I used to call this, I still should call, I do call it becoming unfuckupable.
Mm.
Most of us will not take action on our purpose or not do it in like a big way because we're so afraid of feeling like a failure or being judged or, whatever, judging ourselves, that we don't move through the necessary risk taking that vision demands we do. So what do you do about that? You become masterful at a couple things. Number one, learning to identify, what am I feeling that's a wounded feeling, meaning it's a feeling about a story that I'm making up and telling myself, and what is a core feeling. So, for example, we might not build a summit or ask someone out on a date because we've got a story that people don't like me. I'm unlikable or I'm bad, you know. And so we live inside of that and then we act that way versus we become so powerful at saying like what's actually true about the idea. And this is a huge process that actually takes some time and fortitude, and it's a major piece of what I'm bringing from the self-love work into business coaching is like, you must become rigorous with your capacity to clear these huge feelings consistently. So, like, what's actually true about the idea that people don't like me? Nothing. Some people will, some people won't. But like, there's nothing intrinsically unlikable about me. And like, the people that are meant to be in my space are gonna like love that, you know? And there's a whole process for accessing this with guidance and so forth. So you question that, and then you start taking more risks. Like after this, I'm about to literally have a call. It's about taking risks. I'm exploring this whole other way of leading business myself right now. And so literally as soon as we get off, I have a call with this agency in Beverly Hills about exploring something that I've resisted because it's had a story and it's had a charge. So learning to question these assumptions and these stories in the wounded feeling. And then once you see, oh, that story is just hiding me from my feeling of helplessness, then you become masterful at helplessness over others, not hopeless, but helpless, meaning we don't control what people do. We can
or what they think of us or any
or
of
what
that.
they think of us. Even if we gave ourselves up constantly for a living, as many of us are doing, as I did for the first 30 years, you know, you still don't control shit except about your ability to love yourself. So like, so developing that ability and willingness to try something, to take a risk, to ask someone out, to launch a program, make an offer, have people say no. And rather than crumpling and making it mean you're a failure, you're a fuck up, being like, what's true about that? Nothing. I wonder what the feedback of this is. And I wonder what would work instead. So you become risk seeking with love and health and courageous because you know you can handle every rejection in the world and you're still going after your fucking post chemo baby. You can handle the pain. You will not die from the pain. And so you keep going.
Very powerful. Very powerful. We are getting close to the end. You have already answered one of my questions, which is about how people find purpose. And the other question is tell everybody about your free gift.
Yes. So, since we're talking about financial freedom, they're going to get a masterclass that is all about how do you create financial freedom using the summit model. And basically it just breaks down like what are the things that no one teaches again that cause a summit to be successful, meaning that you leave with thousands of followers who are obsessed with you, literally mail you artwork, which is what was happening with quotes from your show. You know, how do you create these fans and then your calendar booked out for 3 months at the other side? And there's just these nuances about how you invite speakers. All of your New York Times, literally my whole bookshelf has been invited to my show. If I read you, you're going to be on my series. You know, how do you get those people to say yes? And it's to do with intimacy, etc. And, you know, and then how do you monetize it on the other side so that it pays for itself and then launches you into the abundance that you crave. So it's really juicy. I'm proud of it. I think they'll like it.
Cool. All right. I think that's it. Thank you, Anastasia. This was inspiring, lively, and thought-provoking for me, and I bet for everyone.
So thank you for having me and for doing this show at this time. I'm actually so excited for you and to see what unfolds because I can't think of something that's more critical right now. So thank you for doing it.
Yes.